Imagine a life lived in the perpetual shadow of the unknown, an existence where the fabric of reality is not just thin, but constantly tearing at the seams. Picture a world where the things that go bump in the night aren't just figments of a child's imagination, but tangible, malevolent entities lurking in every forgotten corner, every whispered secret. This isn't the realm of fiction, not entirely. This is the chilling, unvarnished truth of a mobile task force soldier. Tonight, we peel back the veil, daring to gaze into the abyss that these unsung, often unseen heroes confront daily. We delve into the horrifying life of a mobile task force soldier, not as a mere recounting of events, but as an immersive journey into the psychological and physical torment they endure. Our objective is stark: to inform you, to unveil the grim realities that define their every waking and indeed sleeping moment. Prepare yourselves, for what you are about to hear will not just shock you, but profoundly disturb you. We will explore the key aspects that forge this horrifying existence, starting with the very recruitment process, a selection so brutal, so precise, it borders on the inhuman. We'll then descend into their training, a crucible designed not just to hone skills, but to strip away all vestiges of normalcy, replacing them with a hardened, almost alien resolve. From there, we will witness the horrors of their deployments, the unspeakable anomalies they face, the impossible choices they are forced to make in the face of existential threats. We will dissect the psychological toll, the insidious creep of trauma that gnaws at their sanity, leaving scars far deeper than any physical wound. Finally, we will confront the chilling reality of their ultimate fates, often shrouded in secrecy, their sacrifices largely unacknowledged by the world they protect. This is not a tale for the faint of heart, but a necessary excavation into the darkness, a testament to the unimaginable burdens carried by those who stand between humanity and its utter annihilation. Listen closely, for the echoes of their screams are closer than you think. The horrific tapestry of a mobile task force soldier's existence is woven from several insidious threads, each contributing to a life steeped in dread and unimaginable pressure. Perhaps the most foundational and certainly the most chilling is the absolute and unwavering secrecy that shrouds their every action. Imagine living in a world where your heroism, your sacrifices, your very existence must remain an absolute secret. This isn't just about non-disclosure, it's about active erasure. Families are told fabricated stories, identities are meticulously scrubbed from all public records, and the true nature of their work is buried under layers of misinformation. This isolation is a psychological weapon in itself, severing them from the solace of shared experience, from the comfort of recognition. They are ghosts, fighting a war no one knows about against enemies no one believes in, for a humanity that will never thank them. Then there's the relentless exposure to the anomalous, the truly inexplicable. These aren't just strange occurrences. They are reality-bending entities, malevolent forces, and existential threats that defy all scientific understanding and often all common sense. One day, a squad might be containing a sentient, flesh-eating fog that whispers forgotten truths into the minds of its victims, driving them to madness before consumption. The next, they could be confronting a creature that manipulates the very concept of fear, manifesting the deepest anxieties of its prey into physical forms. These aren't just dangerous, they are fundamentally wrong, challenging the very sanity of those who witness them. Each encounter chips away at their perception of a stable, predictable world, replacing it with a terrifying panorama of the impossible. Furthermore, the operational tempo is brutal, relentless. There is no true downtime, no genuine respite. A deployment could last weeks, months, in environments so hostile and alien they would break lesser individuals. Sleep is a luxury, often interrupted by urgent calls to action, by the sudden appearance of a new, unforeseen threat. They are constantly on edge, their minds and bodies pushed to the absolute limit, always prepared for the next descent into chaos. This sustained state of high alert, of perpetual danger, grinds down the human spirit, leaving behind a husk of what once was. It is a life lived on the precipice, a constant dance with oblivion, where the only certainty is the next horrifying encounter. Beyond the veil of secrecy and the constant barrage of the anomalous, another key aspect amplifying the horror of an MTF soldier's life is the sheer dehumanization inherent in their role. They are not merely soldiers. They are tools, instruments honed for a singular purpose: containment. Their individuality, their personal narratives are systematically stripped away. This isn't a flaw in the system. It's a deliberate design. To effectively confront entities that defy human comprehension and often prey on emotional vulnerabilities, MTF operatives are molded into something less susceptible, something colder, more detached. They are often referred to by their call signs, their names becoming a distant echo. This process, while arguably necessary for their survival and mission success, exacts an unspeakable cost on their humanity. Consider the ethical quandaries they face daily, situations that would shatter the moral compass of an ordinary person. They are frequently forced to make impossible choices, weighing the lives of a few against the safety of millions, often with grim, horrifying outcomes. Imagine being ordered to terminate a seemingly innocent individual who has been irreversibly altered by an anomaly, knowing that their continued existence, however tragic, poses an apocalyptic threat. Or perhaps being forced to sacrifice a teammate, a friend, to secure a containment breach, watching them fall into an abyss of the unknown, knowing you could do nothing else. These aren't hypothetical dilemmas. They are the brutal realities that carve deep, irreparable wounds into the psyche of an MTF soldier. There is no room for sentiment, no space for remorse in the immediate aftermath, only the cold, hard logic of containment. Finally, the pervasive sense of dread, the constant awareness that they are merely delaying the inevitable, is a torment unto itself. They understand, perhaps better than anyone, the fragility of reality, the sheer power of the forces they contend with. Every successful containment is merely a temporary reprieve, a pause before the next, potentially more catastrophic, breach. They are standing on a crumbling precipice, perpetually bracing for the fall. This isn't just fear. It's a deep existential dread, a knowledge that the very foundations of their world are constantly under assault, and that one day their efforts may simply not be enough. The weight of this collective understanding, this shared premonition of ultimate failure, is a silent, suffocating horror that permeates every moment of their horrifying lives. One cannot speak of the horrifying life of an MTF soldier without delving into the profound and often irreparable psychological trauma they endure. This isn't just stress. It's a deep, festering wound on the soul. The constant exposure to the incomprehensible, the grotesque, and the utterly terrifying leaves an indelible mark. Imagine witnessing realities shatter, bodies contort into impossible shapes, or minds unravel before your very eyes, not once, but repeatedly. These experiences accumulate, eroding their mental fortitude piece by agonizing piece. They are forced to compartmentalize horrors so profound that a normal mind would simply break, pushing them into the dark corners of their psyche where they fester, waiting to resurface. Nightmares become a second reality. Memories warp and twist, and the line between sanity and madness blurs with each passing mission. Adding to this psychological torment is the constant threat of anomalous contamination or alteration. It's not just about physical wounds. It's about the subtle, insidious ways anomalies can infect, change, or corrupt a human being. A soldier might return from a mission seemingly unscathed, only to find themselves haunted by whispers only they can hear, or developing strange, unsettling compulsions. They might begin to perceive the world through a distorted lens, their very senses betraying them. Some anomalies are contagious, subtly rewriting the very genetic code, or altering neurological pathways until the individual is no longer truly themselves, but a puppet of the anomaly. The fear of becoming the very thing they fight, of turning into another object for containment, is a chilling dread that hangs over every single operative. Every cough, every strange thought, every fleeting shadow becomes a source of paranoia, a potential harbinger of their own transformation into something monstrous. Finally, the utter lack of closure or resolution in their fight is a relentless torment. There are no decisive victories, no final battles where the enemy is vanquished forever. The anomalies simply are. They are contained, perhaps for a time, but rarely destroyed. The threat remains, lurking, waiting. This perpetual state of conflict, without the hope of an end, breeds a profound sense of futility and despair. They are Sisyphus, eternally pushing a boulder up a hill, knowing it will always roll back down. Each successful mission is merely a temporary bandage on a gaping, unhealing wound. This endless, unwinnable war, fought in the shadows, against forces that defy all understanding, ensures that the horrifying life of an MTF soldier is not just a chapter, but an entire existence defined by trauma, dread, and the chilling absence of hope. Further deepening the horror of an MTF soldier's existence is the absolute isolation they are forced to endure. Imagine living a life where the very fabric of reality is constantly in question, witnessing things that would drive any sane person mad, yet being utterly forbidden from ever speaking of it. They cannot confide in family, friends, or even most civilians. Their experiences are too outlandish, too terrifying, too dangerous to share. This enforced silence creates an impenetrable barrier between them and the rest of humanity, trapping them within their own nightmares. They become ghosts in their own lives, walking among the oblivious, carrying the weight of cosmic horrors while feigning normalcy. The inability to process their trauma through shared experience, to seek solace or understanding, leads to a profound sense of alienation, a crippling loneliness that gnaws at their very core. This isolation is further compounded by the transient nature of their relationships within the Foundation itself. While they form intense bonds with their squad mates, forged in the crucible of shared terror, these bonds are often brutally severed. The operational tempo is relentless, and casualties are a grim reality. A comrade with whom they faced unspeakable abominations one day might be gone the next, consumed by an anomaly, or simply reassigned to a different, equally perilous theatre of operations. There are no proper goodbyes, no time for grief. The mission, the containment, always takes precedence. They are forced to harden themselves, to build walls around their hearts, knowing that attachment often leads to unbearable pain. This constant cycle of forming and losing connections, without the luxury of mourning, transforms their emotional landscape into a barren wasteland. And then there is the horrifying knowledge that, should they fall, should they be compromised or succumb to an anomaly, their existence will be erased, their sacrifice unacknowledged. There are no medals of honor, no public funerals, no comforting words for their loved ones. They vanish, becoming another nameless statistic in the Foundation's endless war. Their families might receive a cryptic, fabricated explanation, a hollow lie designed to maintain the veil of secrecy. This ultimate anonymity, this absolute erasure, denies them even the dignity of remembrance. It underscores the profound expendability of their lives, transforming their noble, yet terrifying sacrifices into mere footnotes in a hidden history. This chilling prospect, to fight and die for a world that will never know their name, a world that will never acknowledge their horrifying suffering, is perhaps the most insidious horror of all. The horrors that define an MTF soldier's life are not merely external, they are deeply ingrained in the very system that employs them. Consider the relentless, unyielding operational tempo. There is no true downtime, no respite from the constant threat. One mission barely concludes before another begins, often with little to no time for debriefing, recovery, or even a moment of peace. They are machines, expected to function flawlessly under impossible pressure, their humanity systematically stripped away by the sheer demand for their unwavering vigilance. This constant state of high alert, the perpetual readiness for the next world-shattering threat, grinds them down, body and mind, until exhaustion becomes their baseline and true relaxation an alien concept. Their lives become a blur of fear, adrenaline, and fleeting moments of desperate temporary safety. Adding to this relentless pace is the chilling realization of their own expendability. To the Foundation, individual MTF soldiers are often little more than tools, specialized instruments for dealing with specific threats. Their lives, while valued for their utility, are ultimately secondary to the overarching mission of containment and secrecy. This harsh truth is not explicitly stated, but it is implicitly understood with every impossible order, every high-casualty operation, every mission where a squad is sent into certain doom to buy precious seconds. They are aware that they are cogs in a colossal, uncaring machine, and that when a cog breaks, it is simply replaced. This understanding breeds a cold existential dread, the knowledge that their personal suffering, their individual existence, holds little weight against the monumental scale of the threats they face. Finally, the most insidious horror lies in the pervasive sense of moral ambiguity that permeates every decision. MTF soldiers are often forced to make choices that defy conventional ethics, choices that involve sacrificing the few to save the many, or committing acts that, under any other circumstance, would be deemed monstrous. They might be ordered to terminate innocents who have been irrecoverably contaminated, or to leave behind comrades who are beyond rescue to prevent a greater catastrophe. These aren't simple good versus evil scenarios. They are torturous dilemmas where every option is tainted, every path leads to a different kind of horror. These impossible choices scar their consciences, leaving them with an enduring burden of guilt and regret, forever questioning the line between necessary evil and unforgivable sin. It is a horror that festers long after the anomaly is contained, a silent torment that ultimately defines the horrifying life of a mobile task force soldier. Beyond the visible scars and the internal torment, an MTF soldier's horrifying life is also defined by the subtle yet pervasive corruption of their senses. Imagine being trained to interpret every shadow, every strange sound, every flicker of movement as a potential threat. Their minds are rewired, their perception of reality fundamentally warped by constant exposure to the anomalous. A normal forest becomes a labyrinth of potential lurking horrors. A quiet suburban street, a stage for unseen reality-bending phenomena. They can never truly relax, never truly let down their guard, because the world they inhabit is inherently untrustworthy, a thin veneer over an abyss of madness. This hypervigilance, while essential for survival, strips away any semblance of peace, leaving them perpetually on edge, their nerves frayed beyond repair. This sensory corruption extends to their understanding of cause and effect. In a world governed by anomalies, logic often breaks down. Actions do not always yield predictable results. A simple touch might unravel reality. A whispered word might summon unimaginable entities. This constant invalidation of natural laws forces them to operate in a state of perpetual uncertainty, where their training and instincts can sometimes be their greatest liabilities. They are forever navigating a chaotic landscape where the rules are fluid, dictated by forces they can barely comprehend. This breeds a deep-seated paranoia, a constant fear that the next anomaly will not merely threaten their lives, but their very understanding of existence. And perhaps the most chilling aspect is the slow, insidious erosion of their humanity. Over time, the constant exposure to horrors, the brutal necessities of their mission, and the systematic dehumanization they endure begin to chip away at who they once were. Empathy becomes a weakness, compassion a luxury they cannot afford. They witness atrocities that would shatter ordinary people, and they learn to compartmentalize, to numb themselves, to become unfeeling instruments of containment. The lines blur between what is monstrous and what is merely necessary. They transform, not into villains, but into something else entirely, something hardened, broken, and forever haunted. They become reflections of the horrors they fight, sacrificing their very souls to protect a world that will never know their true, terrifying cost. This transformation, this internal decay, is the ultimate horror of their existence. The pervasive surveillance that governs an MTF soldier's life is another key aspect of their horrifying existence, a constant, unseen eye that never truly blinks. From the moment they are recruited, every aspect of their being is meticulously monitored. Their physical and psychological states are under perpetual scrutiny, not for their well-being, but for their operational effectiveness, and to detect any anomalous contamination or ideological deviation. This omnipresent watch creates an environment of profound paranoia, where privacy is a forgotten luxury, and every action, every word, every subtle shift in demeanor is logged, analyzed, and judged. They are never truly alone, even in their own minds, knowing that their thoughts and feelings could be deemed a liability, a weakness to be corrected, or worse, eradicated. This constant observation is a chilling reminder of their status as tools, not individuals, under the Foundation's unyielding gaze. This surveillance extends beyond their personal lives, seeping into the very fabric of their missions. Every operation is recorded, every casualty documented, every decision scrutinized. While ostensibly for post-mission analysis and improvement, it also serves as a perpetual threat, a record that could be used against them should they falter or question their directives. The digital spectre of their failures looms large, a chilling archive that chronicles their every misstep, every moment of fear, every instance where their humanity threatened to break through the carefully constructed facade. This creates an intense pressure to perform flawlessly, knowing that any perceived weakness could lead to reassignment, disciplinary action, or a far more sinister fate within the Foundation's clandestine walls. And perhaps most horrifying of all is the knowledge that this surveillance continues even after their active service, or what passes for it. For those few who survive long enough to be deemed unfit for duty, their lives are not truly their own. They are often reassigned to D-class roles, administered potent amnestics, or simply disappeared into the Foundation's deeper, darker facilities. Their sacrifice, their years of unwavering service, are ultimately erased, their very existence expunged from all public and often even internal records. The Foundation's grip extends beyond the grave, ensuring that no trace of their horrifying ordeal, no echo of their suffering, ever reaches the outside world. This ultimate erasure, this systematic obliteration of their identity and legacy, is a final, chilling testament to the horrifying life of a mobile task force soldier. A life lived in shadows and ultimately dissolved into nothingness. The concept of containment failure looms over every mobile task force soldier like a spectral executioner, a constant, chilling reminder of the ultimate catastrophe they are fighting to prevent. It's not just a mission objective. It's an existential dread that permeates every waking moment and haunts their nightmares. They are the last line of defense, the thin membrane separating humanity from unimaginable horrors. The psychological burden of this responsibility is immense, a crushing weight that never truly lifts. Every anomaly, every containment cell, every sealed vault represents a potential apocalypse, and they are the ones tasked with keeping the lid on Pandora's box, knowing that one slip, one moment of weakness could unleash unspeakable devastation upon an unsuspecting world. This dread of containment failure is amplified by the sheer unpredictability of the anomalies they face. They are often dealing with entities and phenomena that defy all known laws of physics, biology, and even reality itself. There is no guaranteed solution, no foolproof strategy. Every mission is a plunge into the unknown, a gamble against forces that may be utterly incomprehensible. They train endlessly, they strategize meticulously, but ultimately they are often relying on sheer will and a desperate hope that their improvised solutions will hold. The knowledge that even their best efforts might not be enough, that an anomaly could simply decide to breach containment through means they can't even fathom, is a corrosive terror that gnaws at their sanity. And the consequences of failure are not merely catastrophic, they are often deeply personal. MTF soldiers are keenly aware that a containment breach could mean the end of their families, their friends, the very cities they once called home. Though isolated and alienated, they still carry the faint echoes of their past lives. And the thought of those echoes being silenced by the very things they swore to contain is a profound and sickening terror. They are fighting not just for abstract concepts of humanity, but for the ghost of their former lives, knowing that their grim vigil is all that stands between oblivion and the fragile normalcy they can no longer experience. This personal stake in the face of universal horror makes their burden almost unbearable, transforming every mission into a desperate, terrifying struggle against an ever-present, world-ending threat. The inherent unknowability of the anomalies they face is another cornerstone of the horrifying existence endured by mobile task force soldiers. They are sent into the void, often with incomplete or actively misleading information, to confront entities that defy scientific understanding, logic, and often sanity itself. Imagine facing a threat where the very act of perceiving it alters your mind, where reality itself warps and shimmers around the edges, or where the enemy isn't a physical being, but an idea, a sound, a color. This constant confrontation with the truly inexplicable breeds a profound sense of helplessness and existential terror. Their training, their equipment, their very senses are often inadequate against forces that operate on principles utterly alien to human comprehension. This unknowability is not merely an intellectual challenge. It's a direct assault on their cognitive frameworks. The human mind is built to seek patterns, to understand cause and effect, to categorize and define. Anomalies, by their very nature, shatter these fundamental processes. An MTF soldier might witness phenomena that contradict every scientific law they've ever learned, encounter beings that exist in multiple places at once, or be forced to grapple with concepts that are inherently paradoxical. This constant bombardment of the illogical and the impossible slowly erodes their ability to trust their own perceptions, their own memories, and ultimately their own sanity. The world outside their missions, the world of mundane reality, begins to feel like a flimsy illusion, easily torn apart by the true, terrifying nature of the universe. Furthermore, this lack of complete information is often by design or by necessity. The Foundation itself frequently understands only fragments of the anomalies it contains. MTF teams are often dispatched with directives to observe and report, or contain at all costs, even when the how remains a terrifying mystery. They are expected to improvise, to adapt, to sacrifice themselves against threats they cannot possibly comprehend, let alone defeat in a conventional sense. This blind plunge into the unknown, this expectation to stand firm against the fundamentally inexplicable, is a unique and agonizing form of psychological torture. It's the horror of facing a monster whose very existence challenges your right to be, a force that doesn't just threaten your life, but the very coherence of your reality. This pervasive unknowability is a silent killer, slowly but surely dismantling the minds of those who dare to confront it. The concept of acceptable losses is a cold, clinical blade that cuts deep into the psyche of every mobile task force soldier, a horrifying reality that underscores their inherent expendability. They are not merely soldiers, they are tools, instruments to be wielded and, if necessary, broken in the service of a greater, unforgiving cause. This isn't the battlefield camaraderie where every life is precious. It's a grim calculus where individual existence is weighed against the containment of an anomaly and often found wanting. The chilling implication is that their lives, their suffering, their very humanity are considered a justifiable cost, a statistical footnote in the endless war against the anomalous. This isn't just a theoretical understanding, it's a brutal, lived experience. MTF operatives witness their comrades fall, often in the most gruesome and inexplicable ways, and are expected to process it, not as a tragedy, but as a data point, a lesson learned for the next deployment. There is little time for mourning, no space for grief. The mission continues, and the fallen are swiftly replaced, their memories often wiped or classified, their sacrifices absorbed into the silent machinery of the Foundation. This constant exposure to death, treated as a necessary operational expense, desensitizes them in a way that is profoundly dehumanizing, forcing them to view themselves and their peers through the same detached clinical lens. The horror intensifies when they realize that acceptable losses can extend beyond physical death. A soldier might be deemed an acceptable loss if they become too compromised by an anomaly, if their mind shatters beyond repair, or if they are simply too traumatized to be effective. In such cases, they are not necessarily killed, but quietly disappeared, their existence erased, their fate a chilling warning to those who remain. This knowledge that their very being, their mind, their soul can be deemed expendable, not just their body, adds another layer of existential dread. They are not just fighting monsters. They are fighting against the possibility of becoming an acceptable loss themselves, a statistic to be forgotten in the annals of a secret war. The enforced secrecy that shrouds the existence of mobile task force soldiers is not merely a matter of operational security. It's a suffocating shroud that isolates them from the very humanity they protect, plunging them into a profound, terrifying loneliness. They walk among the unaware, bearing the weight of cosmic horrors while feigning normalcy, their true lives a forbidden secret. This isn't just about keeping the world safe from knowing, it's about keeping the world safe from knowing about them. Their sacrifices, their trauma, their very identities are meticulously erased from public record, leaving no trace, no recognition, no solace. Imagine carrying the burden of witnessing unspeakable things, of surviving encounters that would shatter the average mind, and then being forced to pretend it never happened. To sit across from loved ones, if they still have any, and listen to their mundane worries, knowing the true, horrifying nature of the reality you inhabit, a reality they are blissfully ignorant of. The chasm between their world and yours becomes an unbridgeable abyss, fostering an alienation so profound it can drive a person to madness. Every normal conversation becomes a performance, every interaction a lie, every moment a reminder of the terrifying secret that separates you from everyone else. This enforced silence extends beyond their interactions with the outside world. Even within the Foundation, true camaraderie is a luxury they can rarely afford. Bonds are formed in the crucible of shared horror, yet the pervasive paranoia, the constant threat of memory alteration, and the knowledge of their own expendability make deep, trusting connections a dangerous vulnerability. Who can you truly confide in when your own mind might be wiped tomorrow, or your closest ally could be reassigned and their memory of you erased? The secrecy isn't just about protecting humanity. It's about isolating the protectors, stripping them of the very human connections that might offer a glimmer of light in their perpetually shadowed existence. It is a lonely, terrifying path, walked in silence towards an unacknowledged end. The psychological toll exacted upon mobile task force soldiers by their unending exposure to reality-bending anomalies is perhaps the most insidious and inescapable horror of their existence. It's not merely the fear of death or even the terror of the unknown, but the slow, agonizing erosion of their very sanity, their fundamental understanding of how the world works. Each encounter with an SCP object peels back another layer of perceived reality, revealing a universe far more chaotic, alien, and malevolent than any sane mind is equipped to comprehend. Imagine facing entities that defy physics, logic, and even the most basic laws of cause and effect. Anomalies that rewrite history, twist perception, or simply are in ways that contradict every scientific principle. These aren't just threats to life. They are assaults on the very fabric of reason. The human mind is built upon a framework of predictable laws, of cause and effect, of a consistent reality. When that framework is repeatedly and violently dismantled, piece by terrifying piece, the mind begins to crack. This isn't a sudden break, but a creeping madness. A soldier might return from a mission perfectly intact, only to find themselves questioning the solidity of the ground beneath their feet, the authenticity of their own memories, or the true nature of the faces around them. Did that wall just shimmer? Was that shadow always there? Did I really say that, or was it planted? The line between objective reality and anomalous influence blurs until they can no longer trust their own senses, their own thoughts. Paranoia becomes a logical defense mechanism, even as it consumes them. The horror is that there is no escape. Therapy, when offered, is often a band-aid over a gaping wound, designed more to keep them operational than to truly heal. How do you treat a mind that has glimpsed the void and seen it gaze back? How do you re-establish a sense of normalcy when normal is a fragile illusion maintained by the Foundation's iron fist? This constant mental warfare, waged against the very structures of consciousness, leaves them with irreparable psychological scars, a haunting legacy of their horrifying service. They are left adrift in a sea of uncertainty, their sanity a tattered flag barely fluttering in the wind. Beyond the psychological erosion, mobile task force soldiers are routinely subjected to impossible ethical dilemmas, forcing them to make choices that would haunt even the most hardened individual. These aren't abstract philosophical debates. These are life or death decisions, often with no good outcome, only varying degrees of horror. The Foundation's primary directive is containment, and sometimes that means sacrificing the few for the many, or even sacrificing the innocent to prevent a greater catastrophe. Imagine being ordered to terminate a sentient anomaly, one that begs for its life, or one that, through no fault of its own, poses an existential threat. Or perhaps being forced to use human subjects as bait, or as a component in a containment procedure, knowing full well the agonizing fate that awaits them. These aren't the clear-cut battlefields of conventional warfare. These are moral quagmires where every choice stains the soul. The greater good becomes a terrifying justification for acts that, in any other context, would be deemed monstrous. There are instances where a containment breach demands immediate, brutal action, and the cost in human lives, both Foundation personnel and civilians, must be weighed against the potential for global devastation. A soldier might have to seal off a zone, condemning those inside to an unknown fate, to prevent an anomaly from spreading. They might be ordered to activate a failsafe that incinerates an entire facility, knowing their comrades are still within its walls. The weight of these decisions, made under extreme duress and with incomplete information, is crushing. These aren't choices made in the comfort of an office. They are made in the midst of chaos, fear, and blood. The screams of the condemned, the desperate pleas, the silent understanding in the eyes of a dying comrade. These are the indelible marks left on the soldier's psyche. They are forced to become executors of necessity, their humanity slowly stripped away by the horrifying logic of containment. There is no absolution, no forgiveness, only the cold, hard reality of the choices they were forced to make, echoing in the darkest corners of their minds long after the mission is over. The perpetual, unwinnable nature of the Foundation's war against anomalies instills a profound and unique form of existential dread in every mobile task force soldier. This isn't a conflict with a clear enemy, defined objectives, or a conceivable end. It is an endless, cosmic struggle against forces that often defy understanding, forces that existed long before humanity and will likely persist long after. There is no victory parade, no moment of ultimate triumph, only a continuous, desperate holding action against the inevitable. Imagine fighting a war where the enemy isn't just powerful, but fundamentally alien, often incomprehensible, and seemingly infinite. Every containment is temporary, every neutralized threat merely a pause before another emerges, or the same one finds a new way to breach. The Foundation doesn't seek to destroy all anomalies. It seeks to contain them, to keep the fragile illusion of normalcy alive for a world utterly unaware of the horrors lurking just beyond the veil. This knowledge that their tireless efforts are merely delaying the inevitable is a crushing burden. This isn't a war to be won, but a vigilance to be maintained forever. There will be no final battle, no moment of peace. The universe, in its terrifying indifference, will continue to spawn new horrors, and the Foundation, with its expendable soldiers, will continue to stand as the last, desperate line of defense. This unending struggle fosters a deep, soul-shattering pessimism. Why fight if the fight can never truly end? Why sacrifice if every sacrifice only buys a fleeting moment of respite? This existential dread permeates every aspect of their lives. It's in the weary eyes of a veteran, the quiet resignation before a dangerous deployment, the chilling understanding that their efforts are a Sisyphean task. Their very existence is defined by a battle that can never be concluded, only perpetuated. This truth, that their horrifying life is a perpetual state of emergency, a never-ending nightmare, is perhaps the most terrifying aspect of all. There is no light at the end of this tunnel, only more darkness stretching into infinity. Pervasive, intrusive surveillance is another insidious horror woven into the fabric of a mobile task force soldier's existence, transforming their lives into an open book for the Foundation's ever-watchful gaze. Every action, every word, every physiological response is meticulously monitored, analyzed, and recorded. This isn't merely for operational efficiency. It's a chilling assertion of absolute control, a constant reminder that their individuality is secondary to their function. From the moment they join, their lives cease to be their own. Personal communications are scrutinized, movements tracked, and even their mental states are subject to assessment. Psychological evaluations are not therapeutic. They are tools for identifying potential vulnerabilities, deviations from established protocols, or the earliest signs of anomalous influence. The privacy that most humans take for granted is a luxury denied to them, a relic of a normal life they can no longer claim. This constant observation fosters an environment of profound paranoia. Who is watching? What are they looking for? does a fleeting moment of doubt, a whispered complaint, or a subtle change in demeanor get flagged. The knowledge that their every decision, every reaction, every internal struggle is being evaluated by unseen eyes creates an immense psychological pressure. It strips away any sense of personal autonomy, reducing them to mere data points in a vast, impersonal system. Imagine living under a microscope where even your dreams might be considered relevant. This pervasive surveillance extends beyond the active mission, seeping into their meager downtime. There is no true escape, no sanctuary where they can simply be themselves without the silent judgment of the Foundation bearing down. This constant scrutiny erodes trust, not just in the system, but in themselves. They learn to censor their thoughts, to mask their true feelings, to become an ideal soldier, even in their most private moments. This relentless oversight is a cold, calculated dehumanization. It reinforces their status as tools, as assets to be managed, rather than individuals with inherent worth. It's a fundamental aspect of their horrifying reality, ensuring compliance not through loyalty, but through an inescapable, all-encompassing vigilance that leaves no room for dissent or genuine self-expression. Their sacrifices are monitored, their suffering catalogued, and their very humanity dissected, all in the name of a hidden war they can never truly leave. The enforced secrecy surrounding the Foundation's work is not merely an operational necessity. It is a psychological weapon that isolates mobile task force soldiers from the very humanity they strive to protect. They become ghosts in a world that doesn't know they exist, bearing burdens no ordinary mind could comprehend, yet forbidden to ever speak of them. This profound isolation is a cold, gnawing horror that eats away at the soul. Imagine witnessing unspeakable abominations, confronting realities that twist the mind, and making choices that haunt your every waking moment, only to return to a world where these experiences are utterly unspeakable. You cannot confide in family, friends, or even former comrades outside the Foundation's tight-knit, secretive circles. To do so would invite a fate far worse than death, or, more likely, a swift, brutal memory wipe, erasing not just the secret, but perhaps a part of you. This enforced silence creates an insurmountable barrier between the soldier and normal life. Their experiences warp their perception of reality, making the mundane concerns of civilians seem trivial, even absurd. How can one relate to a discussion about traffic or office politics after facing down a creature that devours dimensions? This disconnect fosters a deep, agonizing loneliness. They are amongst humanity, yet utterly separate from it, carrying the weight of cosmic horrors while feigning normalcy. Even within the Foundation, true intimacy is a dangerous luxury. Trust is a fragile commodity, constantly tested by the demands of security and the ever-present threat of anomalous influence. Who can you truly open up to when anyone, at any time, could be compromised or could be ordered to report your vulnerabilities? This environment of suspicion and necessary secrecy turns every relationship into a potential liability, further deepening the chasm of isolation. The secrets they keep are not just facts. They are scars etched onto their souls. The inability to share these horrors, to process them with others, condemns them to carry the full crushing weight alone. This enforced silence is a deliberate and cruel facet of their horrifying life, ensuring that even in their valiant protection of humanity, they remain forever apart, forever alone, forever silently screaming into the void. The ultimate erasure of their sacrifices is perhaps the most chilling and horrifying aspect of an MTF soldier's life. Their bravery, their suffering, their very existence within the Foundation's ranks, all are destined to be forgotten, not just by the world, but often by the Foundation itself. This isn't just about anonymity. It's about the deliberate nullification of their impact, a final, cold act of dehumanization. When an MTF soldier falls, whether in battle or to the insidious psychological tolls, their death is rarely marked by ceremony, their name rarely etched into a public memorial. Instead, they are quietly processed, their records sealed, their existence gradually redacted from all but the most classified archives. To the outside world, they simply vanish. Their families might receive a vague, unsatisfying explanation, or more often, a carefully constructed amnesiac narrative that leaves them with no real closure. This erasure extends beyond death. Even those who survive, if they ever manage to leave active duty, often face a similar fate. Memories might be selectively wiped, their identities altered, or they might simply be relegated to a forgotten corner of the Foundation, their past achievements deemed too sensitive, too dangerous to acknowledge. Their personal narratives, once filled with harrowing tales of heroism and sacrifice, are systematically dismantled, replaced by a carefully curated silence. The horror lies in the knowledge that no matter how much they endure, how many horrors they face, how many times they lay their lives on the line for humanity, their contributions will never truly matter in the public consciousness. There will be no parades, no medals, no history books detailing their valor. Their ultimate reward is oblivion, a quiet disappearance from the annals of human endeavor. This ultimate erasure compounds their trauma and alienation. It tells them, in no uncertain terms, that their lives, their suffering, their very being are expendable and ultimately forgettable. They are cogs in a colossal, uncaring machine designed to grind anomalies into submission, only to be discarded and wiped clean from existence once their utility is exhausted. Their horror is not just what they face, but the absolute certainty that their struggles, their very lives, will ultimately mean nothing to the world they protect. The psychological erosion of sanity and understanding of reality is not a sudden break, but a slow, insidious decay, a creeping madness that settles in the minds of mobile task force soldiers. It is the inevitable consequence of prolonged exposure to the unexplainable, the impossible, and the profoundly wrong. Their world, once governed by predictable laws, crumbles around them, replaced by a chaotic tapestry of anomalies that defy all logic and reason. Imagine a soldier, once grounded in the tangible world, now forced to regularly confront entities that exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, or artifacts that warp time and space with a mere touch. They might encounter creatures that defy biological classification, or phenomena that rewrite fundamental physics. Each encounter chips away at their cognitive framework, forcing them to accept the impossible as their new normal. This constant assault on their perception leaves them with a shattered worldview. The very fabric of reality, which most humans take for granted, becomes a flimsy illusion. They begin to question everything. What is real? What is a hallucination induced by an anomalous entity? Is the sky truly blue? Or is that just what their compromised brain perceives? The line between sanity and madness blurs, not through mental illness in the conventional sense, but through an overwhelming saturation of the absurd. The Foundation, in its cold efficiency, often provides cognitive inoculation or mimetic countermeasures. But these are merely bandages on a gaping wound. They might dull the immediate shock, but they cannot restore the fundamental trust in reality that has been irrevocably broken. Sleep offers no true respite. Nightmares are often just echoes of encounters, or worse, new anomalous intrusions into their subconscious. Over time, this erosion manifests in various terrifying ways. Some soldiers develop extreme paranoia, seeing anomalies in every shadow, every fleeting glance. Others become profoundly detached, their emotions dulled by the sheer weight of what they've witnessed, viewing the world through a nihilistic lens. Still others might experience full-blown cognitive dissonance, struggling to reconcile their experiences with any semblance of a coherent self. The most chilling outcome is when a soldier, after years of this torment, can no longer distinguish between the Foundation's reality and the anomalous realities they've been fighting. They become an anomaly themselves, a walking testament to the horrors they've faced, their minds utterly unmoored from any stable understanding of existence. This is the true creeping horror, not just dying, but having your very mind dissolved into chaos. The burden of cosmic horrors for humanity's unacknowledged protection is the silent, crushing weight that MTF soldiers carry, a weight that separates them irrevocably from the very people they safeguard. They are the unwitting priests of a dark, forgotten religion, performing rites of containment and sacrifice for a congregation that remains blissfully ignorant of the gods they appease or the demons they hold at bay. This burden is not merely physical, it is existential. They stand on the precipice between humanity and an abyss of unimaginable entities and phenomena, absorbing the shocks, enduring the psychic feedback, and witnessing the raw, unvarnished truth of a universe far more terrifying than anyone can conceive. They see the vast indifference of cosmic forces, the malevolence of interdimensional beings, and the sheer reality-bending absurdity that constantly threatens to unravel human civilization. And yet, for all their suffering, for all their direct confrontation with the unholy and the sublime, their efforts are destined to remain forever in the shadows. Humanity sleeps soundly, dreaming its mundane dreams, completely unaware of the battles fought in the dark. There are no ticker-tape parades for containing an SCP that could reshape consciousness, no posthumous honors for averting a K-class scenario that would end all life. Their protection is a clandestine act, a secret pact with oblivion, known only to those within the Foundation's ironclad walls. This unacknowledged protection breeds a profound sense of alienation. How can you connect with a world that doesn't know the true nature of reality, that lives in a fragile bubble of manufactured normalcy? How can you share your deepest fears and most terrifying experiences when doing so would shatter their sanity, or worse, expose them to the very horrors you strive to protect them from? The MTF soldier becomes a silent guardian, a solitary sentinel, forever separated from the flock by the knowledge they possess. They are the sacrificial lambs of a cosmic war, their bodies and minds broken, their souls scarred beyond repair, all for a humanity that will never even know their names. This is the ultimate horrifying irony of their existence. To bear the universe's darkest secrets, to bleed and die for a species that cannot comprehend the depth of their sacrifice, and to fade into an unremembered void, leaving only the chilling whispers of the horrors they contained. The constant exposure to brutal dehumanization is not merely a side effect of their service. It is a fundamental pillar of the Mobile Task Force soldiers' existence, a deliberate process designed to strip away their individuality and reshape them into expendable assets. From the moment they enter the Foundation's grim embrace, their identity begins to unravel, replaced by a designation, a number, a function. This dehumanization begins subtly, with the obliteration of personal privacy. Every action, every thought, every interaction is monitored, recorded, analyzed. They are never truly alone, always under the invisible gaze of the Foundation, reducing them to mere data points in a vast, cold system. Their personal histories are redacted, their connections to the outside world severed, their very names often replaced with call signs or numerical identifiers. They become interchangeable components in a larger machine, their unique humanity deemed a liability rather than an asset. But the dehumanization deepens with their operational realities. They are routinely subjected to situations where their physical and psychological well-being is secondary to the containment of an anomaly. They are deployed into scenarios with high casualty rates, expected to sacrifice themselves without hesitation. Their lives weighed against the potential catastrophic breach of an SCP. They are forced to make impossible choices, often involving the deaths of innocents or fellow soldiers, decisions that scar the soul and erode any remaining sense of moral agency. They are treated not as individuals with hopes, fears, and dreams, but as tools, instruments to be wielded against the unknown. Their bodies are trained, augmented, and often experimented upon, not for their personal benefit, but for the Foundation's objectives. Their minds are subjected to mimetic hazards, psychological conditioning, and memory alteration, all designed to maintain their operational effectiveness, regardless of the personal cost. This systematic brutalization and depersonalization ultimately transforms them. They become shells, hollowed out by the relentless grind of their service. The humanity they once possessed recedes, replaced by a grim utilitarian focus on survival and mission completion. They are not heroes. They are sacrifices, their individuality systematically dismantled until only the bare, functional soldier remains, a chilling testament to the Foundation's ruthless efficiency and the horrifying price of containing the uncontainable. The constant exposure to reality-bending anomalies is perhaps the most insidious and pervasive horror faced by Mobile Task Force soldiers. It is not merely about encountering the strange. It is about having the very fabric of existence twisted and torn before their eyes, day after terrifying day. This relentless assault on their perception leaves them in a perpetual state of unease, where the solid ground of reality can give way to the impossible at any moment. Imagine a world where the laws of physics are suggestions, not rules, where objects defy gravity, space folds in on itself, and time flows with a sickening irregularity. An MTF soldier might witness a creature that exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously, a being whose mere presence warps the environment into a grotesque parody of itself. They might encounter a phenomenon that causes memories to spontaneously rewrite, or a landscape that shifts and rearranges itself with malicious intent. These aren't isolated incidents. They are the backdrop of their service. This constant immersion in the anomalous doesn't just challenge their understanding, it actively corrupts it. Their minds, designed to process a predictable, logical world, are forced to accommodate the inherently illogical. The brain struggles to categorize, to rationalize, to find patterns in chaos, and often it breaks. What was once horrifying becomes merely another Tuesday. What was once impossible becomes mundane. But this normalization isn't a coping mechanism. It's a symptom of deeper damage. The soldier begins to see the world through a fractured lens. The whispers of an SCP can make them question the solidity of a wall or the true identity of a comrade. The lingering effects of a temporal anomaly can make them doubt whether the present moment is truly real or a warped echo of something that hasn't even happened yet. Their perception of cause and effect blurs. Their grasp on objective truth weakens. This erosion of reality isn't a sudden, dramatic break. It's a slow, creeping decay. Each encounter, each impossible sight, each mind-bending sound chips away at their sanity, leaving behind a chaotic tapestry of anomalies, where logic and reason have no dominion. They learn to distrust their own senses, their own memories, even their own thoughts. They become living testaments to the fragility of reality, forever haunted by the knowledge that the world they protect is a thin, precarious veil over an abyss of the utterly, horrifyingly inexplicable. And for them, there is no escape from this twisted truth. The ceaseless, pervasive surveillance and enforced secrecy that define the existence of a mobile task force soldier are not merely procedural requirements. They are instruments of profound psychological torment, designed to isolate and control every facet of their being. From the moment they commit to the Foundation, their lives cease to be their own, becoming an open book for unseen eyes and a closed vault to the world beyond. Every word they utter, every action they take, every moment of their waking and even sleeping hours within Foundation facilities is meticulously monitored. Cameras watch from every angle, microphones pick up every whisper, and their biometric data is constantly logged. There is no privacy, no sanctuary for personal thought or genuine emotion. This constant scrutiny breeds an insidious paranoia, a pervasive sense that they are perpetually judged, always under suspicion, even by those they serve alongside. Trust becomes a dangerous luxury, and genuine connection an impossibility. Beyond the watchful eyes, the enforced secrecy acts as an impenetrable barrier, severing them from the normal world and plunging them into an abyss of alienation. They cannot speak of their work, not to family, not to friends, not even to other Foundation personnel outside their immediate operational unit. The horrors they witness, the sacrifices they make, the impossible choices they are forced into, all must remain unspoken, buried deep within their shattered minds. Imagine carrying the weight of cosmic terrors, the knowledge of humanity's true fragility, and being utterly forbidden to share that burden. This enforced silence creates an unbridgeable chasm between the MTF soldier and the ignorant populace they protect. They become ghosts in their own lives, haunting the edges of a world they can no longer truly belong to. Their experiences are unique, terrifying, and utterly incommunicable, trapping them in a gilded cage of horrifying knowledge and profound loneliness. The secrets they keep become chains, binding them to a life of isolation, their humanity slowly suffocated by the very silence they are sworn to uphold. Perhaps the most chilling and ultimate horror awaiting a mobile task force soldier is the deliberate and systematic erasure of their sacrifices. Their heroism, their suffering, Their very existence in the Foundation's service are deemed not merely classified, but ultimately irrelevant. In the grand, terrifying scheme of containing the anomalous, individual contributions are fleeting, easily forgotten, and often actively removed from any record that might acknowledge their profound impact. When an MTF soldier falls in the line of duty, there are no medals, no public eulogies, no grieving families given closure. Their names are scrubbed from public records, their identities dissolved into a bureaucratic void. To the world, they simply vanish, leaving behind a fabricated history, a quiet disappearance that raises no questions. Their families, if they even remember them, are given carefully constructed narratives of an accident, a sudden relocation, or a quiet departure into obscurity. The truth, the brutal, horrifying truth of their end, is buried under layers of secrecy and amnesia. This erasure extends beyond death. Even those who survive, bearing the indelible scars of their service, find their contributions minimized, their trauma unacknowledged. Their reports are filed, classified, and often forgotten in the vast digital archives of the Foundation. The unique insights they gain, the desperate acts of bravery they perform, are absorbed into the collective, attributed to the Foundation as a whole, rather than to the individual who bled and suffered for it. The psychological impact of this systematic obliteration is profound. How does one grapple with a life of extreme danger, profound ethical compromise, and unimaginable suffering, knowing that in the end it will all amount to nothing? That their struggle will be rendered meaningless, their memory wiped clean, their very existence as a Foundation operative denied. It strips away any hope of legacy, any comfort in the idea that their pain served a greater acknowledged purpose. Their sacrifices are not merely unacknowledged, they are actively forgotten, their stories silenced, their very humanity rendered null and void in the annals of history. They are the Foundation's expendable pawns, their lives and deaths mere footnotes in a war against chaos that no one else will ever know was fought. This final, chilling erasure is the ultimate act of dehumanization, rendering their profound suffering an invisible, unmourned tragedy. The psychological toll on a mobile task force soldier is not merely a consequence of their horrifying duties. It is a foundational element of their existence, a slow, insidious rot that permeates every corner of their being. They are not merely exposed to danger, they are subjected to a relentless barrage of trauma that systematically dismantles their minds, leaving behind fragments of what they once were. Imagine facing entities that defy natural law, witnessing events that rewrite the very fabric of reality, and being forced to commit acts that shatter every ethical boundary. Each mission carves deeper into their psyche, leaving behind indelible scars. The constant threat of instant, gruesome death, or a fate far worse than death, breeds a hypervigilance that never truly dissipates. Sleep offers no true escape, plagued by nightmares that often bleed into waking hours. The moral injuries are perhaps the most insidious. MTF soldiers are frequently forced to make impossible choices, sacrifice innocence to contain a greater threat, terminate sentient anomalies that plead for their lives, or inflict unimaginable pain in the name of containment. These decisions gnaw at their souls, creating a profound sense of guilt and self-loathing that no debriefing can ever truly alleviate. They become complicit in horrors, not by choice, but by necessity, blurring the lines between protector and perpetrator. Moreover, The cumulative effect of constant exposure to the anomalous warps their perception of normalcy. What constitutes a normal day when reality itself can be a malleable thing, when the laws of physics are routinely defied, and when death is merely a temporary inconvenience for some entities? Their understanding of the world, of life, and of their place within it becomes fractured and unstable. The mundane comforts of civilian life become alien, almost absurd, against the backdrop of cosmic horror they confront daily. This relentless psychological assault leads to a terrifying array of mental health crises: severe PTSD, chronic depression, anxiety disorders, and often a chilling detachment from human emotion. Some succumb to madness, their minds finally breaking under the strain. Others develop coping mechanisms that are themselves monstrous, becoming cold, ruthless, and devoid of empathy, merely reflections of the horrors they fight. The Foundation builds its defenses on the shattered minds of its soldiers, a horrifying testament to the true cost of human protection. The existential dread faced by a mobile task force soldier is a horror far deeper than the fear of physical harm. It is the slow, agonizing realization that their entire understanding of existence is a fragile illusion, constantly on the brink of shattering. They confront the ultimate truth, that humanity is not alone, not dominant, and certainly not safe. Every anomaly they encounter, every breach they contain, screams a terrifying message. The universe is vast, indifferent, and teeming with entities and phenomena that defy comprehension. These aren't just threats to human life. They are threats to the very concept of a stable, predictable reality. When you've seen a creature that exists outside of time, or a phenomenon that warps causality, or an entity that feeds on abstract concepts, how can you ever again trust the ground beneath your feet? This constant exposure chips away at their philosophical foundations. The neat categories of science, religion, and common sense become meaningless in the face of true cosmic horror. Their worldview, painstakingly constructed over a lifetime, crumbles into dust, leaving them adrift in a sea of terrifying possibilities. They are forced to confront the abyss, not as an abstract concept, but as a tangible, ever-present reality. The sense of insignificance is overwhelming. Against the backdrop of these universe-shaking threats, individual lives, even humanity itself, seem laughably small. They are merely cogs in a colossal, desperate machine, fighting an unwinnable war against forces that operate on scales beyond human understanding. This breeds a profound nihilism, a chilling acceptance that their struggle is ultimately futile, their sacrifices ultimately swallowed by the endless void. This isn't merely despair. It's a fundamental shift in perception, a permanent scarring of the soul. They carry the burden of knowing too much, of seeing behind the veil and understanding the terrifying fragility of everything. The world they protect is a lie, and they are its reluctant, horrified guardians, forever haunted by the truth. The physical torment endured by a mobile task force soldier transcends mere injury. It is a brutal, relentless assault on the very vessel of their being, often leaving them permanently disfigured, disabled, or marked by anomalies in ways that defy medical understanding. Their bodies are not just tools. They are battlegrounds where the bizarre and the lethal collide. Consider the nature of their adversaries. These are not conventional foes. They might face entities that dissolve flesh with a touch, or warp bone with a glance, or inflict wounds that refuse to heal, seeping anomalous energy. A simple bullet wound becomes a luxury when compared to a limb twisted into impossible angles by an unseen force, or skin that slowly turns to granite, or internal organs that begin to replicate themselves uncontrollably. Exposure to certain anomalies can lead to insidious, slow-acting physical degradation. A soldier might return from a containment breach seemingly unscathed, only for their eyesight to begin to fail weeks later, or their hair to fall out in clumps, or for strange geometric patterns to appear beneath their skin. These aren't just symptoms. They are living reminders of their proximity to the unnatural, a creeping horror that transforms their own bodies into grotesque canvases of the anomalous. Beyond the direct anomalous effects, there's the sheer, brutal physicality of their work. They operate in hostile environments, often without proper rest or nutrition, under extreme stress. They carry heavy gear, navigate treacherous terrain, and engage in close-quarters combat with entities that possess unnatural strength or resilience. Bones are broken, muscles are torn, and chronic pain becomes a constant companion, a dull thrum beneath the surface of their existence. Many MTF soldiers bear scars that tell stories no one else can hear. A missing eye replaced by a crude prosthetic, a hand permanently contorted, a limb amputated due to anomalous infection. These are not just injuries, but badges of a horrifying war fought in the shadows. Their bodies become repositories of suffering, living testaments to the unspeakable horrors they have faced, forever altered by their service, their physical forms twisted into grotesque reflections of their inner torment. The moral injuries inflicted upon a mobile task force soldier run deeper than mere regret. They are profound, soul-searing wounds that corrupt their ethical compass and leave them with an indelible sense of guilt and defilement. These are not choices made in a vacuum, but under duress, often with impossible stakes, where every option is a descent into a different kind of darkness. Imagine being ordered to sacrifice innocent civilians to contain a greater threat, to seal them within a facility with a ravenous anomaly, their screams echoing in your ears as the bulkheads close. Or perhaps you are tasked with terminating a sentient anomaly, one that pleads for its life, not with malice, but with a childlike innocence. Yet its very existence poses an unacceptable risk to humanity. The trigger is pulled, and a piece of your humanity withers and dies with it. Sometimes, the horror isn't in what they are forced to do, but in what they are forced to witness, unable to intervene. They might observe the slow, agonizing transformation of a colleague into something monstrous, or the systematic torture of an anomaly for information, knowing that intervention would compromise the mission, perhaps even their own lives. The complicity, even by inaction, leaves a festering wound. These aren't abstract ethical dilemmas debated in a classroom. They are visceral, immediate choices with horrifying consequences. There is no right answer, only the least catastrophic one, and the burden of that choice falls squarely on their shoulders. The Foundation's cold utilitarian calculus demands sacrifices, and the soldiers are the instruments of that grim equation. Over time, the lines blur. What was once unthinkable becomes a grim necessity. The repeated violation of their own moral codes warps their sense of right and wrong, leaving them desensitized, hardened, and ultimately alienated from the very principles they once held dear. They become tools, extensions of a ruthless containment protocol, their individual conscience slowly eroded by the relentless demands of a war that makes monsters of its heroes. They are left with a profound sense of defilement, a haunting knowledge of the atrocities committed in the name of a greater, unseen good. The pervasive surveillance and enforced secrecy surrounding mobile task force operations are not merely protocols. They are instruments of profound isolation, severing soldiers from any semblance of normal human connection and compounding their trauma. Every word, every action, every subtle shift in demeanor is observed, recorded, and analyzed, creating an environment of constant, chilling scrutiny. Imagine living under a gaze that never falters, knowing that your thoughts, your reactions to unimaginable horrors are being meticulously catalogued. This isn't just about operational security, it's about control, about ensuring compliance, and about preempting any deviation from the Foundation's grim objectives. There is no true privacy, no sanctuary for the mind to unravel without being flagged. This constant oversight extends beyond the battlefield. Even in the brief, rare moments of downtime, the knowledge that they are perpetually monitored stifles genuine interaction. Trust becomes a luxury they cannot afford, as any confidant might also be an informant, or worse, a liability that could compromise their mission or their very existence within the Foundation. The secrecy, too, builds impenetrable walls. Soldiers are forbidden from speaking of their experiences, not just to outsiders, but often even to family or friends they might have left behind. Their lives are compartmentalized, their true existence a terrifying secret they must carry alone. How do you explain the horrors you've witnessed to someone who believes the world is mundane and safe? You don't. You learn to lie, to deflect, to invent a life that isn't yours, further isolating yourself behind a facade of normalcy that cracks under the weight of suppressed nightmares. This enforced silence creates an echo chamber of suffering. There is no external validation for their sacrifices, no public acknowledgement of their heroism, no shared grief for fallen comrades that isn't confined to the sterile, classified walls of the Foundation. Their trauma festers in the darkness of secrecy, unacknowledged and unmourned, leading to a profound, chilling alienation from the very humanity they are sworn to protect. They become ghosts, living in a world that refuses to see them, their horrifying lives a secret burden carried until their inevitable, silent end. The ultimate erasure of a mobile task force soldier's sacrifices is perhaps the most chilling aspect of their horrifying existence, rendering their profound suffering and contributions utterly meaningless in the grand tapestry of human history. This isn't just about anonymity, it's about a systematic process of forgetting, a deliberate removal of their very presence from the collective consciousness, even within the Foundation itself. When a soldier falls in the line of duty, there are no state funerals, no medals of valor bestowed publicly, no names etched into monuments. Their deaths are classified, their existence often retroactively scrubbed from public records, and their families are given fabricated narratives to explain their disappearance. Imagine your life, your ultimate sacrifice, being not just unacknowledged, but actively erased, as if you never existed at all. This extends beyond death. For those who survive, their records are often sealed, their memories perhaps even selectively altered, ensuring that the true nature of their service, the horrors they faced, remain buried. They are expected to return to civilian life, if they are even permitted to, as blank slates, their past a carefully constructed lie. This profound lack of recognition denies them the fundamental human need for their experiences to hold meaning, for their suffering to be seen and understood. The Foundation's logic is brutal. To protect humanity's ignorance is to protect humanity itself. And in that protection, the individual becomes utterly expendable, their story irrelevant. Their heroism is a secret, their trauma a burden to be borne alone, and their very existence a classified file that will likely be purged in due time. This erasure creates a terrifying void. It means that every monstrous encounter, every impossible choice, every agonizing injury, every lost comrade simply vanishes into the ether. Their courage, their resilience, their unwavering commitment to a cause that consumes them whole, all of it is swallowed by the silence. The soldier becomes a ghost in their own life, their sacrifices unremembered, their suffering unmourned, their very humanity systematically dissolved into the impersonal machinery of containment. Their horrifying life, in the end, counts for nothing in the annals of a history they secretly fought to preserve. The profound isolation experienced by Mobile Task Force soldiers is not merely a consequence of their clandestine duties. It is a fundamental, soul-crushing aspect of their horrifying existence, where the depths of their suffering and the magnitude of their contributions are systematically forgotten. This isn't just about being alone. It's about being erased from the human narrative, even as they stand as humanity's last, desperate line of defense. Imagine bearing witness to horrors that would shatter the sanity of any ordinary person, confronting entities that defy comprehension and making choices that would damn a lesser soul. Now, imagine doing all of this with the absolute certainty that no one will ever truly know, that no one will ever truly understand. This is the chilling reality of their isolation. Their experiences are so far removed from the mundane world that sharing them is impossible. How do you articulate the sensation of reality twisting, of physics breaking, of confronting a being that communicates through your deepest fears? Such truths are not for polite conversation. They are for the silent screams of the mind. This unshareable burden forces them inward, creating an unbridgeable chasm between them and everyone else. This isolation is compounded by the Foundation's deliberate policy of secrecy and memory alteration. Should a soldier survive and attempt to re-enter civilian life, they are often stripped of their memories, or their past is meticulously fabricated. They become strangers to themselves, living a lie, haunted by echoes of experiences they can no longer fully recall, or by the crushing weight of a truth they cannot utter. Even within the Foundation, true camaraderie is a fragile thing, constantly undermined by the high mortality rate, the psychological toll, and the ever-present surveillance. Bonds are forged in fire, but they are often quickly severed by anomaly or by assignment, leaving survivors to carry the ghosts of their fallen comrades in solitary grief. Their existence becomes a solitary vigil against the void, their profound contributions to humanity's survival destined to be forgotten, their suffering rendered invisible. They are the silent guardians, their lives a terrifying testament to a hidden war, where the ultimate reward for their sacrifice is not glory, but the chilling oblivion of being completely, utterly alone, erased from the very history they bled to preserve. The final, crushing horror of a Mobile Task Force soldier's existence lies in the profound, deliberate isolation they endure. Their very essence and sacrifices systematically expunged from human memory. Despite their critical, terrifying role as humanity's hidden protectors, their suffering is not merely unacknowledged. It is actively, meticulously erased, as if their blood and tears never stained the fabric of reality. This isn't a mere oversight. It's a cold, calculated policy. Every operation, every casualty, every act of unspeakable courage against a cosmic horror is immediately absorbed into a void of secrecy. Their names will never grace memorials. Their families will never receive honest condolences. Their very existence is often retroactively scrubbed, their identities dissolved into a faceless, nameless entity serving a greater, unseen purpose. Consider the chilling implication. You face down an entity that can warp perception, rewrite history, or feast on despair, enduring unimaginable torment to secure the world's ignorance. Yet, in the aftermath, your heroism is not celebrated, but buried. Your trauma is not healed, but sealed away. Your very memory, the proof of your fight, is systematically dismantled, piece by agonizing piece. This deliberate erasure extends to their contributions. The world sleeps soundly, oblivious to the monsters lurking just beyond the veil, because these soldiers stood firm. Yet, the history books will never mention their battles, the scientific journals will never credit their containment efforts, and the public will never mourn their fallen. Their victories are silent, the defeats absolute in their anonymity. This enforced oblivion renders their profound sacrifices meaningless in any conventional sense. There is no legacy, no recognition, no collective memory to validate their suffering. They are the ultimate forgotten heroes, dying not just for humanity's survival, but for humanity's right to remain blissfully unaware of the price paid. Their isolation is therefore complete, isolated in life by their knowledge of cosmic horror, and isolated in death by the deliberate act of being forgotten. Their terrifying lives vanishing without a trace, leaving only the chilling silence of a secret well kept. The final, most insidious horror, woven into the existence of a mobile task force soldier, is the absolute, systematic erasure of their critical sacrifices and their very being from the annals of human memory. This isn't merely an unfortunate consequence of their clandestine operations. It is a meticulously enforced policy designed to ensure humanity's blissful ignorance, condemning these soldiers to an absolute, unacknowledged isolation that extends beyond their lives into the chilling void of oblivion. Imagine facing down a cosmic horror, a reality-bending entity that threatens to unravel existence itself. You put your life, your sanity, everything on the line to contain it, to push back the encroaching darkness. And then, as the dust settles, your actions, your courage, your very name are meticulously scrubbed from all records. There are no medals, no parades, no quiet moments of remembrance. There is only silence, a vast, terrifying emptiness where your legacy should be. This erasure isn't just about public knowledge. It penetrates deeper into the very fabric of personal identity and historical truth. Families are often given false narratives of their loved ones' deaths, an accident, a sudden illness, a disappearance. Their grief is real, but its object is a phantom, a carefully constructed lie. The Foundation ensures that no thread, no whisper, no stray memory can ever connect these soldiers to the impossible truths they faced. This extends to the psychological toll. A soldier might survive an encounter only to have their memories selectively altered, their trauma sealed away behind mnemonic veils. They might walk among us, unaware of the battles they fought, the horrors they witnessed, the sanity they sacrificed. Their heroism becomes a phantom limb, an echo of a life unlived, a truth unspoken even to themselves. The rationale is, of course, containment. To acknowledge the mobile task force would be to acknowledge the anomalies they fight, shattering the veil of normalcy that humanity clings to. But for the soldiers themselves, this means their profound contributions, their agonizing deaths, become utterly meaningless in the grand scheme of recorded history. They are the unnamed, the forgotten, the spectral guardians whose very existence is a secret too dangerous to keep. Their isolation is complete, a horrifying testament to a life lived and then unlived in the cold, unfeeling service of a world that will never know it owes them everything. The most profound and chilling aspect of a mobile task force soldier's horrifying existence is the systematic erasure of their sacrifices and their very being from human memory. This isn't a regrettable byproduct of their dangerous work. It's a fundamental, cold-blooded principle designed to ensure humanity's blissful ignorance of the anomalies they combat. This policy condemns them to an absolute, unacknowledged isolation and a terrifying oblivion that transcends death. Consider the depth of this obliteration. These individuals stand as the last line against existential threats, confronting entities that defy logic and sanity. They witness horrors that would shatter the average mind, make choices that weigh the fate of millions against the lives of a few. And for this, their reward is not glory, but disappearance. Their names are struck from records, their faces blurred from photographs, their stories silenced before they can ever be told. It is as if they never were, a chilling reversal of existence itself. The Foundation's rationale is clear. The collective knowledge of these anomalies would cause widespread panic, societal collapse, perhaps even direct manipulation by the entities themselves. Thus, the truth must be contained, and the truth-bearers along with it. But for the soldier, this means their pain, their courage, their ultimate sacrifice are rendered invisible. They die not just for humanity, but for humanity's right to remain oblivious, to sleep soundly while cosmic horrors claw at the edges of reality. This erasure extends beyond the public sphere. It often impacts their closest kin, their families fed carefully constructed lies, their grief directed at a phantom, a fabricated narrative. There are no graves to visit, no shared memories to console. The soldier's life becomes a secret even to those who loved them most, a void where a person once stood. The psychological impact is immeasurable. To know that your struggles, your screams, your final breath will be reduced to nothingness, that your very memory will be purged as thoroughly as a dangerous contagion, is a horror far deeper than any physical wound. It is an existential annihilation, a denial of one's impact, one's purpose, one's very reality. The mobile task force soldier is not just fighting monsters. They are fighting for a truth that will never be acknowledged, their horrifying life culminating in the ultimate paradox, protecting a world that will never know it was saved by heroes who were never allowed to exist. The most insidious horror woven into the very fabric of a mobile task force soldier's life is the systematic erasure of their memory and their very existence. This isn't merely a consequence of their dangerous work. It's a meticulously crafted policy designed to ensure humanity's blissful ignorance of the existential threats they tirelessly combat. This chilling directive condemns these soldiers to an absolute, unacknowledged isolation pushing them into a terrifying oblivion that transcends even death. Imagine facing down an entity that twists reality, a creature born from nightmares, its very presence threatening to unravel the fabric of the world. You stare into its abyss, knowing that your actions, your sacrifice, are the only barrier between chaos and order. And then, when the dust settles, when the world is safe once more, your name, your face, your deeds are meticulously scrubbed from all records, from all memory. It is as if you never existed, a phantom warrior in a forgotten war. This erasure isn't simply about public secrecy. It delves deeper into the very essence of personal identity and historical truth. Families are provided with fabricated narratives, their loved ones vanishing not into heroic sacrifice, but into mundane accidents or inexplicable disappearances. Their grief is genuine, but its object is a lie, a carefully constructed illusion. The Foundation ensures no thread, no whisper, no stray thought can ever link these soldiers to the impossible truths they faced. The psychological toll of such an existence is profound. A soldier might survive an encounter only for their memories to be selectively altered, their trauma carefully compartmentalized or entirely removed. They might walk among us, specters of their former selves, unaware of the battles they fought, the horrors they witnessed, the sanity they sacrificed. Their heroism becomes an unacknowledged phantom limb, a silent echo of a life unlived, a truth unspoken even to themselves. This systematic erasure is the ultimate dehumanization. It reduces their profound contributions, their agonizing deaths, to mere statistical anomalies, swept under the rug of normalcy. They are the unnamed, the forgotten, the spectral guardians whose very existence is a secret too dangerous to keep. Their isolation is absolute, a horrifying testament to a life lived and then unlived, in the cold, unfeeling service of a world that will never know it owes them everything. The most chilling and profound dehumanization inflicted upon a mobile task force soldier stems from the systematic erasure of their memories and their very existence. This isn't merely an unfortunate consequence of their perilous duties. It is a deliberate, calculated policy, meticulously enforced to maintain humanity's blissful ignorance of the existential threats they tirelessly combat. At its core, this policy trades the soldier's identity and recognition for the perceived safety of the unaware masses. Imagine standing on the precipice of an abyss, facing down an entity that defies all known physics, all logical understanding. Your comrades fall around you, their screams swallowed by the void. You push forward, knowing that your actions, your sacrifice, are the only bulwark against an unimaginable horror spilling into the world. And then, when the dust settles, when the immediate threat is neutralized, every trace of your struggle, your courage, your very being is systematically expunged. Your name, your face, your deeds vanish as if they were never etched into reality. This erasure extends beyond public records. It delves into the most intimate corners of their lives. Families are fed carefully constructed fictions, their loved ones simply missing, transferred, or reassigned to some nebulous, uncheckable duty. There are no medals, no official eulogies, no shared public mourning. The soldier's memory becomes a ghost, haunting only those who knew them before the Foundation claimed them, and even then those memories are often subtly altered, blurred, or outright suppressed to prevent any breach of secrecy. The psychological devastation wrought by this policy is immense. a soldier might survive an impossible mission only to return to a life where their own past is a blank slate, their most harrowing experiences replaced by benign, fabricated recollections. They become strangers to themselves, their identity fractured, their sense of purpose irrevocably damaged. They are heroes who can never claim their heroism, saviors who are condemned to be forgotten. This systematic obliteration is the ultimate act of stripping away personhood. It reduces their profound sacrifices, their agonizing deaths, to mere statistical anomalies erased from the collective consciousness. They are the unnamed, the forgotten, the spectral guardians whose very existence is a secret too dangerous to be acknowledged. Their isolation is absolute, a horrifying testament to a life lived and then unlived in the cold, unfeeling service of a world that will never know it owes them everything. The profound dehumanization suffered by a mobile task force soldier is a calculated, systematic process, deeply ingrained within the Foundation's operational ethos. It manifests most chillingly through the deliberate erasure of their memories and their very existence, a policy enacted not out of malice, but from a cold, pragmatic necessity. This horrifying trade-off protects humanity's blissful ignorance of existential threats, but at the cost of the soldiers' identity, their recognition, and ultimately, their very soul. Consider the individual, recruited or coerced into this clandestine war. They arrive with a past, a name, a life. But the moment they don the uniform, they begin to shed these human markers. Their personal history becomes classified, their civilian identity a ghost. Then, upon the completion of a particularly sensitive mission, or in the event of their death or severe mental incapacitation, the final cut is made. Every digital footprint, every physical record, every lingering memory is systematically expunged. It's as if they never were. This isn't merely a matter of public secrecy. It's a deep, pervasive obliteration that severs their connection to everything that once defined them. Families are left with carefully constructed lies, their grief a hollow echo for a loved one whose existence has been retroactively nullified. The soldiers' valiant sacrifices, their agonizing deaths become unrecorded events, their heroism rendered moot by their complete removal from history. There are no posthumous honors, no memorials, no quiet acknowledgements of their ultimate service. The psychological impact of such a policy is devastating. A soldier might survive multiple encounters with reality-bending horrors, only to find their own mind subtly altered, their most traumatic experiences surgically removed or replaced with benign fabrications. They become a walking paradox, a hero with no memory of their deeds, a savior without recognition, a person whose very essence has been deemed expendable for the greater good. They are alive, perhaps, but their truest self is dead, erased, a victim of a system that needs their strength but fears their truth. This deliberate stripping away of identity reduces these brave men and women to mere tools, expendable assets in a cosmic game. Their profound suffering, their incredible courage, are swallowed by the void of non-existence, leaving behind only the terrifying silence of an unacknowledged sacrifice. It is the ultimate horror, to fight for humanity, only to be erased by humanity, becoming a forgotten sentinel in an unwinnable, unremembered war. The Foundation's systematic dehumanization of its mobile task force soldiers reaches its chilling zenith in the deliberate erasure of their memories and identities. This isn't an accidental oversight. It's a meticulously crafted policy, designed with a cold, pragmatic efficiency to nullify their very existence and the profound sacrifices they make. The purpose? To safeguard humanity's ignorance, a fragile shield against the terrifying truth of existential threats. Imagine a life dedicated to battling the unspeakable, to confronting horrors that would shatter the average mind. You witness atrocities, perform acts of unimaginable courage, and perhaps die a gruesome death in the service of mankind. Yet, in the aftermath, every digital trace, every physical record, every personal memory of you is systematically purged. Your name is removed from databases, your face from photographs, your very story from the annals of existence. You become a non-person, a void where a vibrant life once pulsed. This isn't just about protecting secrets from the public. It's about ensuring that even within the Foundation, the true cost of containment remains abstract. A soldier's family is given a fabricated narrative, a polite lie that allows them to grieve for a phantom, for someone who vanished into a bureaucratic black hole. There are no heroes' funerals, no posthumous medals, no quiet recognition for those who faced down the abyss. Their suffering, their valor, and their ultimate sacrifice are deemed too dangerous to be remembered, too destabilizing to be acknowledged. The psychological toll on those who survive this process is catastrophic. They live with fragmented pasts, their minds a patchwork of genuine terror and implanted falsehoods. Who are they, truly, when their most profound experiences are deemed irrelevant, too sensitive, or simply erased? They become shadows of their former selves, alienated from their own history, their identity a constantly shifting enigma. They are the ultimate sacrifice, not just their lives, but their very right to have existed, to have mattered. This systematic nullification transforms the soldier into an expendable tool, a nameless cog in a vast, terrifying machine. Their individual humanity is deemed less important than the collective delusion of safety. Their suffering is a necessary price, their erasure a pragmatic choice, ensuring that humanity sleeps soundly, oblivious to the horrifying depths to which others descend and then disappear for their sake. The Foundation's most chilling act of dehumanization against its mobile task force soldiers is the deliberate, calculated erasure of their very memories and identities. This isn't a mere consequence of their dangerous work. It is a core tenet of containment, transforming these brave individuals into expendable tools, into non-persons. The horrifying rationale behind this policy is to maintain humanity's blissful ignorance of existential threats, and, perhaps more disturbingly, to conceal the true, soul-crushing cost of containment itself. Imagine confronting an entity that warps time, or a creature that feeds on fear, or a spatial anomaly that defies all known physics. You survive, perhaps barely, your mind scarred, your body broken. But the true horror awaits not in the field, but in the sterile halls of a Foundation facility. There, your personal history, your cherished memories, your very sense of self, all are systematically dismantled. This isn't just about secrecy. It's about making you disappear, not just from the world, but from yourself. Consider the meticulousness of this erasure. Every photograph, every birth certificate, every digital footprint that once affirmed your existence is meticulously scrubbed. Families are fed fabricated narratives, a convenient lie to explain your sudden absence, your inexplicable death, or your complete withdrawal. There are no eulogies, no monuments, no quiet moments of remembrance for these forgotten warriors. Their sacrifices, however monumental, are deemed too dangerous to be acknowledged, too destabilizing to be remembered. The psychological devastation wrought by such a policy is profound. A soldier might return from a mission with gaps in their memory, strange inconsistencies in their personal timeline, or a gnawing sense of having lost something vital, something irreplaceable. They become strangers to their own past, their identity a phantom limb. They are alive, yet their truest self, their unique narrative, has been systematically murdered. They exist in a terrifying liminal space, having fought for a world that refuses to acknowledge their existence, having sacrificed their very essence for a humanity that will never know their name. This systematic nullification reduces these soldiers to mere cogs, their individuality stripped away, their humanity deemed an inconvenient variable. Their suffering is a necessary price, their erasure a pragmatic choice, ensuring that the fragile illusion of normalcy for the rest of humanity remains undisturbed. They are the forgotten guardians, their horrifying lives ending not in glory, but in the chilling silence of non-existence, their sacrifices rendered meaningless by the very system they serve. The final, most insidious act of dehumanization inflicted upon a mobile task force soldier is the systematic erasure of their memories and identity. This isn't a tragic byproduct of their service. It's a deliberate, calculated policy by the Foundation designed to transform them into expendable, anonymous tools. The chilling objective is clear: to maintain an impenetrable veil of secrecy and preserve humanity's blissful ignorance of the existential horrors lurking just beyond their perception. Imagine a man, or a woman, who has faced down entities that defy comprehension, who has witnessed the fabric of reality tear, who has made choices no human should ever be forced to make. They return not to solace or recognition, but to a cold, clinical procedure. Their personal history, their cherished recollections, the very essence of what makes them an individual, are meticulously, systematically excised. Every photograph, every record, every whisper of their former life is purged, leaving behind a void. This isn't merely about protecting sensitive information. It's about erasing the inconvenient truth of their existence. When a soldier vanishes, their family is given a carefully constructed narrative: a tragic accident, a sudden disappearance, a quiet resignation. There are no heroes' memorials, no solemn ceremonies to honor those who have literally saved the world. Their contributions, their profound suffering, their ultimate sacrifices are deemed too dangerous, too destabilizing to ever be acknowledged. They become ghosts in the machine, their past lives dissolved into a carefully curated fiction. The psychological toll on those who survive this process is an unspeakable horror. They live with an unsettling sense of unreality, a nagging suspicion that parts of their past are missing, that their memories are a patchwork of truth and fabrication. Who are they, truly, when their most formative experiences, their deepest loves, their most agonizing losses are no longer their own? They are left with a fractured self, an identity that feels borrowed, incomplete. They are alive, yet fundamentally stripped of the narrative that defines humanity. This systematic nullification reduces these extraordinary individuals to mere assets, their personal lives and emotional landscapes considered irrelevant. Their suffering is a necessary cost, their erasure a pragmatic choice to uphold the grand deception. They are the forgotten guardians, their horrifying lives concluding not with valor, but with the chilling silence of non-existence, their sacrifices rendered utterly meaningless to the very world they saved. Their only legacy is the blank slate they leave behind, a testament to the Foundation's unwavering and terrifying commitment to secrecy. The most chilling aspect of a mobile task force soldier's existence is the Foundation's deliberate policy of memory and identity erasure. This isn't a tragic consequence of their perilous work. It's a meticulously enforced protocol designed to transmute them into anonymous, expendable instruments. The horrifying truth behind this practice is the unwavering commitment to maintaining absolute secrecy and preserving humanity's fragile ignorance of the existential horrors that constantly threaten its very fabric. Imagine confronting an entity that defies all known laws of physics, or a sentient anomaly that whispers maddening truths into your mind. You survive, perhaps scarred beyond recognition, your sanity clinging by a thread. But the true terror awaits not on the battlefield, but in the sterile, unfeeling chambers of the Foundation. There, your past, your personal history, your very name, are meticulously, systematically eradicated. This isn't merely about protecting classified information. It's about making you disappear, not just from the public eye, but from your own self. This systematic nullification transforms these extraordinary individuals into mere cogs in a vast, unseen machine. Their individuality, their personal narratives, their very humanity, all are deemed irrelevant. Their suffering is a calculated cost, their erasure a pragmatic choice to uphold the grand deception. They become ghosts in the machine, their former lives dissolved into a carefully constructed void. The psychological devastation inflicted upon those who endure this process is profound. They walk through life with an unsettling sense of unreality, a gnawing suspicion that vital pieces of their past are missing, that their memories are a patchwork of truth and fabricated narratives. Who are they, truly, when their deepest loves, their most agonizing losses, their most formative experiences are no longer their own? They are left with a fractured sense of self, an identity that feels borrowed, incomplete. They exist in a terrifying liminal space, having fought for a world that will never acknowledge their existence, having sacrificed their very essence for a humanity that will never know their name. Their only legacy is the blank slate they leave behind, a testament to the Foundation's unwavering and terrifying commitment to secrecy. We have journeyed through the abyssal depths of what it truly means to be a mobile task force soldier, peeling back the layers of duty and sacrifice to reveal a reality far more chilling than any anomaly. Their lives are not merely difficult, they are a perpetual descent into a psychological and physical gauntlet, designed to break and reshape them into tools for a war humanity will never know it's fighting. From the relentless exposure to reality-bending horrors that fray their very sanity, to the impossible ethical quandaries that corrode their souls, these individuals are trapped in an unwinnable conflict. The pervasive surveillance, the enforced secrecy, the constant threat of erasure, each element conspires to isolate them, to alienate them from the very world they protect. We've seen how their identities are systematically stripped away, their memories purged, transforming them into expendable, anonymous instruments. Their sacrifices, profound and agonizing, are meticulously forgotten, rendered meaningless in the annals of a history that will never acknowledge their existence. The true horror isn't just in the monstrous entities they face, but in the calculated cruelty of the Foundation itself. It is a system built on dehumanization, on the systematic nullification of individuality, all for the sake of maintaining a fragile ignorance. These soldiers are not heroes in the traditional sense. They are martyrs in a silent war, their suffering a necessary cost for a peace built on lies. Their contributions are systematically erased, their very being reduced to a means to an end. So, as we draw this macabre exploration to a close, remember this. Beneath the veneer of normalcy, beyond the comforting illusions of a safe world, there are those who pay a price beyond imagining. They are the unseen, the unheard, their lives a testament to a horrifying truth. Their existence is a whisper in the dark, a chilling reminder that some sacrifices are too great to ever be truly honored, and some truths are too terrifying to ever be known. Sleep soundly if you can, knowing that somewhere, in the shadow, a mobile task force soldier is losing themselves, piece by agonizing piece, so you don't have to know what truly lurks in the dark.